Good morning, everyone. This is Griffin again here with Motility's Professional Services Department. For those of you getting dialed in, again, welcome. For those of you who were just on our service invoicing section, this is going to kind of roll right into scheduling like we had talked about. I'll give another minute or two here for any last-minute stragglers to get in and joined and dialed in. But again, thank you all for jumping in here. Let's give it about 2 minutes, and we'll go ahead and get started on service scheduling and warranty clerk. All right, everybody, thank you for your patience. I think we've got just about everyone who's going to join for today. So again, my name is Griffin Greer here with the Professional Services Department here at Motility. And today we are continuing our webinar series with service scheduling, CAN jobs, and warranty clerk review. So for those of you who were on our previous session this morning, we talked a little bit about general invoicing, navigation of the module, but now we're going to go ahead and continue with our scheduling portion. So should make a lot of sense as to what you just saw, and then we'll discuss a few other items in between, like dropping those CAN jobs and the warranty clerk. So we'll go ahead and get started. Like we talked about before, parts and service is location specific. If I'm at company 1, we're going to want to open up that locations parts and service module. The example I gave this morning was, creating a new appointment or a new estimate, and then, of course, following that up by filling out the information within the RO and assigning some date time promise, some notify date times, and just keeping overall organization of the invoice intact. However, what if we wanted to kind of work in reverse, where instead I start my day by hitting Tools and Advisor Calendar? And especially if you work with between 2 monitors, or work with multiple screens, this can be very handy. You could leave this calendar up throughout the day to track, okay, here are all my advisors. Here's who's, available for today for me to schedule with. And then, of course, the incoming appointments for drop-offs. So let's go ahead and open it. I'm going to maximize the calendar to make it a little easier to see. Keep in mind that our calendars all operate very similarly. So learning this calendar, and what it does, you're going to be familiar with the dispatching calendar for the mechanics. You'll be familiar with the deliveries calendar on the sales side of it. So they all operate very similarly. So just keep that in mind as you're learning these. One thing we do want to talk about is setting up everybody's hours. So every employee in the system can have their start and lunch times keyed in, as well as the days they're available. So when we're looking at the calendar, you can see the sections where that employee is either off, or in this case, like if you notice these 2, they're blocked off and don't start their day till 8 a.m. Well, these 2 employees never had their times keyed in, so it looks like they're available all evening. So again, you want to just make sure visually the system agrees to your employees' schedules and their availability. Your shop may not have multiple service advisors or writers, right? You may just have a singular one, in which case your list won't look like mine does on the left. You'll probably only have one name. Or if you're a large shop that has multiple service advisors or writers, you will see something similar to this. So just keep in mind, depending upon the size or how your shop operates, you may see differences here on the left. Let's say you log in and you don't see any names here. Well, it's important to know that when your team is being onboarded into the system, in this employee setup module, I know we're getting a little off track here, but I think it is worth mentioning because this is a relevant portion of getting this set up and good to make note of, is if I'm a service advisor, there are two things that need to happen for my name to show up in that list. I'm going to click on Bob Owens here. So Bob Owens is not marked as a service advisor. That checkbox you're seeing right here, when he gets onboarded into the system, this will place his name into that tab. Now, that's not the only thing we need, however. There's an additional field here called team number. So Bob is a mechanic, so we don't have a security login for him. He doesn't sign into the system. But I'm going to pick instead a Connor Vickers. So if I check off a service advisor, the name would start populating. Well, what does the team number matter? Well, the team is for you to identify if this service advisor is part of a team with other service advisors. So maybe you have 3 service advisors that are assigned team 1, 3 service advisors that are assigned team 2, and 2 service advisors that are assigned team 3. If you put team number 1 in here, now for Connor Vickers as a service advisor, let's go back into my service advisor list and you'll see that name jump up. If that name doesn't jump up, it means that either I'm not in the same team as he is or he's not in the same team as I am. Now, you may tell me, Griffin, all our advisors work together. We don't separate them by teams. Then you'll just want to make sure that when we create them in the employee setups, we assign them the same team number as the other advisors at that location. So if you notice down here, there's Connor Vickers. The name just showed up. Well, everything is good. They're available for us to schedule with. So my recommendation to you for the folks that have multiple shop locations would be the team numbers don't actually have to be a number. It can be a letter. So why not go back to the teams and you can say, okay, team A is location A or location 1, team B, or maybe you've named your locations based on the city. So if you have a Denver location and your profit center is DEN, you could create team number DEN. So all of your Denver employees all linked together within that calendar. You may not have that complicated of a setup, in which case I wouldn't worry about it, but just keep in mind that's an option available to you. All right, so from here, we have the calendar for Connor, and I'm just going to work with one employee for today, just so that makes the most sense. But here you can see he's got nothing on the calendar. So now we would want to plan on what appointments are incoming for today, or I could just leave the calendar up and directly from it. So let's say I want to go ahead and schedule something for a customer that is called in at, let's say they just called in and they want to drop off at 1 p.m. today. So, okay, I could go over to the 1 p.m. slot. I see nothing is scheduled currently for that time. I'm going to go ahead and click on that calendar spot and go ahead and hit yes. So now that I've created that RO, I can actually create my work orders directly from the calendar. You don't have to create them and then place them onto the calendar. And I would advise doing it this way because you've got the customer on the phone. You can collect some vital pieces of information, working directly from here. So we're going to use a different customer than this morning, just so I'm not kind of overwriting what we did. So I've got Jimmy Brown here. Jimmy Brown, let's see if he's, hey, I reach out to him. Hey, have you brought your vehicle into service with us before? You can check the stock numbers keyed in on his record by checking the drop down, and I see no available vehicles, right? So like we talked about this morning, I'm going to have to key in a vehicle record. So I'll say, all right, Mr. Brown, looks like you haven't purchased a vehicle from us. What will you be bringing in? And they mentioned that they're bringing in a Wildwood FSX or a Cedar Creek Daydreamer, whatever the vehicle type is. We'll go to their vehicles tab and add information for that vehicle record. So 2019, let's do fifth wheel. Forgive me if I'm not putting in the right vehicle information. I'm just kind of running with it. So 2019 Cedar Creek Daydreamer. Maybe that's a travel trailer or a toy hauler, whatever the case. Save it. Now that vehicle will be available for us to mark as serviceable. But now I'd want to continue my phone conversation. We know he wants to drop off at 1 p.m. Well, what is he interested in getting done? Well, let's say he's interested in a winterization job. Well, if you recall earlier, I had used a canned job of a winterization repair code that assigned our billable time. I guess you need to spell winterization correctly for that to show up. There we go. So we've got some winterization, some fresh water system, quite a few in here. But I'm going to take it a step further because this repair code doesn't include parts. It's just labor time. So now what do I do to get parts, the labor, everything keyed in all at once? Well, that's what the canned job is for. So the system doesn't come preloaded with any canned jobs. These would be dealership specific. But if I click on canned job, I can find everything that's in the list. And you'll see we can create pretty much templates for all the types of work that we offer in our shop. Now, always there's going to be a random one-off that you can't account for, and we'll have to probably key that one in by hand. But coming in here and clicking on winterization, now the system has added my part lines, my complaint cause and correction. It's added a repair code, and it's added the parts necessary and the quantities and the pricing we need to get this job completed. So as you notice, as I added a canned job, it added the repair code with it. So let's break this down for a moment. You can have repair codes without canned jobs, but again, you're still going to have to deal with the part side of it. So if you use Spader codes or repair code listings, my recommendation is to create those alongside the canned job to add parts to it. So really all you're left for the service team to do is to assign a technician, complete the work, and then collect payment. Versus having to have the parts team come in and add the parts on top of the Spader code or the repair code that you've added. So my recommendation is just to set up repair codes in the system. Let's link your repair codes to an associated canned job. So now the work is already on here and it's consistent. Every time we drop that job, it's the correct parts, the correct pricing, the correct complaint cause and correction. Creating that consistency will make these items easier and easier to drop every single time. So I've got my appointment on here. Mr. Jimmy Brown's going to come in for a winterization at 1 p.m. today. So we'll go ahead and jump out of here. I've got my appointment on here. My default calendar appointment color is red, but this can be customized so that when you default it, it shows up with a certain color. So maybe blue is my drop-off color. We could preset that, and I could even populate this calendar appointment or make it longer so we know a drop-off typically takes 30 minutes. Whatever you'd like to do here, you can open that up. If I hit apply and OK to save, now at any point in time, I can check my service advisor calendar here in Tools, Advisor Calendar, and I can see that appointment both on our day view, our week view, our month view, etc. I also have an advisor information tab that's logging each of our advisors and the work assigned to them. So if I click on my admin tab, I should see in here everything assigned to that service advisor, and you can check each of the service advisors what they have open. We also have a past due column. What is past due based on? For those of you on our session prior to this, it was the date time promised. So if I date time promised for a customer on the 9th, you can see that that's already passed. We're a day beyond our date time in on some of these. That makes sense, right? You know, if we don't continue attending to these date time promise fields, it's going to continue throwing it in past due. So keeping those dates up to date, the date time promise, that notify date time will make sure invoices aren't sticking into this past due column. Hopefully by the time they're here, there's extenuating circumstances like parts delays or something else causing that, not just, oh, my team forgot to update the date appropriately. So there's always visibility into this information We just want to make sure that it's being attended to appropriately. Keep in mind on this calendar, let's say Jimmy's repairs, based on what we saw there, he should be available to pick up by the end of the day. So barring any kind of craziness, if all that work gets done, how do we schedule a pickup? Well, because this calendar appointment is really designated for the date time in, I don't want to move this because I want to leave it as showing, well, he came in at 1 o'clock. Okay, so how do I add something onto this calendar that isn't an RO, that's mostly just a reference? Well, if we've discussed, if I, let's take this all the way through, you can double click on an appointment and hit yes to get right to the invoice. So let's say that I told Mr. Brown that based on just it being a winterize, I should be able to have you out of here by 5 p.m. today. And I could set a notified date time for 4 p.m. And now, oops, let me put the right time in here. Now, if I'm using that tool that, or that trick I showed you earlier about filtering for notified date, I would recognize that, okay, I'm going to give him a call an hour beforehand, let him know this is available. If I talk to Mr. Brown and he says, yep, he's going to come pick up at 5, I'll come in here and add a note. Spoke to Mr. Brown today. He will be in at 5. Notified him work is complete. So this is going to stamp my name on it, that I talked to him, made my note. Well, now what I want to do on my calendar is maybe reflect, hey, I got a pickup coming. So why don't you double click on a time slot. If you hit yes, it's going to add an RO. If you hit no here, you can add an appointment that is unlinked to an RO in any way. So I could just say, Mr. Brown, picking up unit, tag number 1234, and then the location, maybe we have a pickups bay or something, and I schedule it for about 15 minutes. So green is go. Why don't we plug that in there? So now I've made a reference to his work order coming in and when he's going to come pick up. Now, this is all fine. How do we track this from a point of view on the cashing out and making sure these invoices are actually gone? Well, if you notice, let's say I click ahead to next month. You see how there's a bold day in November? Well, that's because there's still a calendar appointment on there. What happens when a ticket cashes out? It erases from the calendar. Right? You may be thinking, well, historically, how do I research that information? Well, you have reports available to you to find, all of the scheduled time when it came in, when it dropped off. But you'd want your calendar to clean up. So if I look at a week's past, and you can click and drag on a day. So if I click on Monday and drag to Friday, you can get a Monday to Friday view. I can see that all of Mr. Vickers' invoices have been cashed out and closed. Otherwise, they would still be on this list. If I click in today's week and I say Monday through Friday, I can still see that Jimmy Brown's ticket has not been cashed out, right? So, it's a very quick indicator that if we're on Friday this week and I still see an appointment on here, something happened and they didn't cash out, I'd want to research that by clicking into the ticket and figuring out what happened. So a lot of availability here and flexibility of how you want to use it. You don't have to use this calendar at all if you so choose, but I find it to your advantage to schedule from that. If you use your date, time ins, and promise dates the way we've talked about, sometimes this list screen might be enough of a calendar view or a list view. But again, the more open tickets you have, the longer the list gets, the harder it becomes to kind of attend and stay on top of these items. So utilize that calendar there if that does make it easier. Now, let's say I have a calendar, an RO open, but we never scheduled it in the past. Well, you can always schedule, with this little calendar click. So what do I do here is say, hey, this 7-month-old ticket, the parts finally got in, warranty finally sent us those warranty parts. So I want to get this scheduled and finalized today. So I'll put in today's date at, let's say 2 p.m. If I click the calendar icon, it's just going to follow that date time in and put it for today's date. So again, you have a lot of flexibility into how you're operating on this calendar, whether you're scheduling first, scheduling after, if you're scheduling your pickups or anything like that. It's entirely up to you how you want to utilize it. Now, we talked about setting up canned jobs, and dropping those into the ticket. To set those things up, you have an edit, modify, can jobs listing here. If you want to create a new can job, you can look at the existing ones. You can delete them from here. If I want to create a new one, take a look at what that looks like. It's just like a work order. So I'm going to call this can job template. If you check off display and finance, this will be an option that your sales team can upcharge a deal with. So if this is prep work like a hitch installation or a brake controller that you'd like available to them, you can check off display and finance. Here's job line 1, 2, and 3. We'll code them all as retail lines. This is where you can specify if this is internal work, body shop work, prep work, warranty work, extended warranty work. But in this case, we're going to say this can job drops 3 retail lines with this complaint correction. We can preload pricing. So even if I don't add a repair code, I could still force 2 billable hours, 2 payable hours. Or if I have a repair code that reflects this type of job, I can say, okay, this change engine oil is automatically going to apply 1 billable hour, 1 payable hour for our customers. And then of course the parts as well. So if I wanted to add part number 1, 2, 3, there's 5 of these required for this job. Maybe we offer a special discount pricing because it's all grouped together. Again, whatever you plug in this can job, when you're in your invoice screen and you drop it, it's going to drop all of this information in for you. So I highly advise sitting down as a team, discussing what all our frequent job types are, trying to get as many of those in here as you can. That way, RO writing or service writing isn't that difficult of a process. You just come into that line item, click can job, find the associated work like this fifth wheel hitch install, and then it will go ahead and add all of the parts, all of the lines. You just now have to schedule. So we've talked about general invoice scheduling, not so much on the technician side, but to close out our call today before our 12 o'clock Eastern lunchtime, we do want to review the warranty clerk screen. So we will have deeper dive warranty discussions with the accounting sessions that we will be having later on this week. But it's important to know what this warranty clerk screen does. So if you recall, earlier in our sessions today, we discussed quote, open, close not cashed out, where a ticket gets closed to, but we haven't collected payment yet. Closed cashed out, which is where an invoice should land once it's finalized and complete. Voided tickets that have been marked as voided. That's quite a bright red color there. And then your warranty clerk screen. So what does warranty clerk mean? The warranty clerk tab is a designated tab that shows you work orders for one of 2 reasons. If it's on this list screen, it's expected the warranty administrator has something to attend to. So why don't we click on this very first one, Gregory Anderson. Well, the ticket's been cashed out. We collected the customer payment. However, if we notice, this ticket is coded as warranty. So why is this still in this screen? Well, we took customer payment, which looks to be a $75 deductible. We can confirm that on the customer pay. But how do we get the remaining dollar amount, the $98 remaining for this ticket? How do I get this into warranty claims? Well, we have to tell the system that our warranty administrator submitted this claim to Alliance. How do they do that? You click Submitted. The system's going to prompt you to add a warranty claim. You hit yes. Down in this warranty tab, it's going to generate a claim number for you. It's always going to use the invoice number dash whatever repair line you're submitting. Well, maybe Alliance got back to your warranty administrator and they gave them a different claim number. Uncheck the submitted box, apply the actual claim number, ABC123, then click Submit again. This is the claim number that will show up when accounting goes to receive that check against this claim. Okay, so let's exit out, and if I did everything correctly, the invoice disappears, but it did not. Why would my invoice not disappear from the warranty clerk screen? Let's go back into it. Well, if it's been cashed out, I can validate that from my cash out status. I can see my line item number 1 is submitted, but what's going on with job line 2? This line has not been submitted. So for a ticket to remove from this warranty clerk screen, it needs to be both cashed out and have all invoice lines marked as submitted. So again, my warranty clerk missed a line. So they come back in here, validate that the work is done or it's billed out appropriately based on what we submitted to Alliance Claims. We'll go ahead and hit submit. It's going to make my claim equal to what we submitted. Oops, forgot to adjust my claim number. You can always uncheck submit. Remember, this isn't electronically submitting this anywhere. We would love for warranty companies to electronically integrate with us, but let's be honest, they don't want to make it any easier to get this money than jumping through the hoops that you have to do today. So, this is just to reflect that, yes, our warranty administrator went to Alliance's website, submitted this work order as a claim, and when they did that, they got a specific claim number. So let's see, do we want to combine this ticket total with the first claim? If so, I can add this $71.50 to the $98 we claimed on line 1. How do I do that? Just use the same claim number. Then when you're on the warranty receivable side and accounting, the sum of these two claim numbers will add together. If this is truly a second claim, then we'll add this one as ABC 456. Now, when the team goes to apply a check, we're going to have two separate warranty claims for this work order. Okay, so it's very important that both of those lines get submitted. If just one gets submitted, then it'll still hang out here. And here's the other important part about this that a lot of folks don't realize, and you can see here it dropped out. If this ticket is in the warranty clerk screen, take a look at this second one here. The ticket's cashed out. Now, unfortunately, I'm giving you a bad example here. This ticket has, let's reopen it real quick. I'm going to flip it to open. There's no dollar amount on here, which I'm not a fan of. So why don't we bill out 3 hours of labor on retail? Actually, let's flip this to service warranty. I did that just by typing warranty there. So I've got 3 billable hours of warranty on this line going to Winnebago. And then I have 3 hours, let's do 2 hours of warranty on this line, also going to Winnebago. Okay. I don't have tech times billed. I don't have parts on here, so please forgive, this is not the best example in the world. But what I wanted to show here is now with 2 separate Winnebago lines, we need to submit both of them, right? Submit claim 1, that created claim this number, and then I'll do the same on job line 1. Well, the reason I'm showing you this example is my warranty administrator has submitted both lines, right? But, oh, my ticket drops off. Good, right? So that's what we want to see. We want to see that as these lines get submitted and finalized, everything drops off of the list. So this warranty clerk screen is a working list for your admins to use to make sure that all tickets completed and submitted are cashed out and then sent to accounting. What's the problem with seeing something on the warranty clerk screen? It is not in the accounting system. So you can see that this $460 worth of work, well, it's not cashed out, so that's one reason it's not in accounting. But even if I were to cash this ticket out, if this submitted box was not finalized on either of our warranty lines, it will prevent the ticket from posting to accounting. Only once a ticket is cashed out and fully submitted will you find the warranty receivables in accounting, the warranty revenue lines, the warranty costs, everything. So it is very important that this screen stays as short as possible. And whatever is outstanding on here should equal all the tickets that have not yet been submitted to warranty. So we've talked a little bit about general invoice scheduling on the advisor calendar, CAN jobs and how to create those, and of course our warranty clerk screen. Now we will expand upon each of these items in future trainings because we do have to cover dispatching training for technicians. We do want to cover warranty clerks. How do we receive those checks in? But this was a shorter session designed to just help you get familiar with what these processes will look like as we expand upon them in the future trainings. So I'm going to leave the next few minutes here for any questions that you may have. Our next webinar scheduled is this afternoon at 2 p.m. and that is going to review cashing out, cash drawers, and the end of day process. So that will be a full hour from 2 to 3. And then we will have an additional session from 3:30 to 4 o'clock reviewing tech training and how technicians will can clock in with their mobile app. They can use parts requests, a whole bunch of factors there to show you what their view looks like in the system. We will return to scheduling training next week, same time, and continue with dispatching on the technician side. But for today, you've seen pretty much how a work order gets dropped, how it gets added to the calendar, and probably the best way for you to code your tickets is creating these canned jobs and trying to cover as many default, labor jobs that you can do. Oil changes, winterizations, any sort of PDI work, battery prep, whatever the case may be. Creating those as canned jobs will make it so your service department doesn't have to do these one at a time. They just keep dropping it. And like we talked about, what is the biggest advantage of canned jobs? Consistency. From job to job, from ticket to ticket, they're going to look similar. And that makes a huge benefit for in the end of the year when you run a report and you want to show all the jobs done that were PDI lines done by technicians. You can track and find all of that because we know they were dropped consistently with the right parts, the right labor times, and everything is kosher. So again, thank you all for your time for joining this webinar. For those of you planning on attending this afternoon's cash out, cash drawers, and end of day training, that is the next logical step as we move to close an invoice out. We want to talk about how to collect payment, where those payments go, and how you help true up the cash drawers so that your bank deposit matches what is actually in the bank for that day. You want to make sure the accounting team stays happy. So again, thank you all for joining. I'll leave the next few minutes here as an open Q&A session. Otherwise, for those of you at Eastern time, I hope you have a good lunch, and I look forward to talking with you at 2 p.m. Covering cash out and the end of day processes in Motility.